Alright everyone, welcome back. It's me, Mr. 250, to the second part of the episode. There's the big tree again. He actually referenced it in his story towards the end there, I don't know if you noticed, but this is just going to be us going over these two side quests. I did say it was more or less the same thing. It's the same thing in terms of a text adventure like we just experienced, however, these guys have completely different things going on. But mark my words, what they're talking about is important stuff. Not in terms of the story, but in terms of the backstory, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Let's begin. This must be another person infected by the death dream. It would appear that way, yes. Let's enter the villager's dream. Gods, please don't tell me we have to go back in there. I'm no good at this mind game crap. I'd rather hit something in the face and be done with it. We know, Nier. We know. Perhaps you should spend less time complaining and more time getting on with the mission. Yeah. I breathe air scented with death and resist the urge to laugh, for I know it will sound like the words of a madman. How long have I been in here? My box, my prison, is tucked under a stairway in the long unused catacombs of some infinite castle. Outside, I hear the sounds of a funeral dirge that seems without end. Light is no place here. Wind is a forgotten friend. I pray for death to come, but he forsakes me. Time passes. An eternity slips by in the single tick of the clock. Someone knocks on my prison. Hey, anyone in there? I hear an unfamiliar voice say. My savior. I claw at the door of my jail, embedding thick splinters under my ragged nails. I scream for help. I laugh, I sob. Surely this is a product of my addled mind. Surely it could not be true. Help me, I cry. For the love of all the gods, help me. Impossibly, I hear the sound of a lock being torn out and falling to the floor. As the doorway slowly creaks open, I have just enough time to see a silver-haired man and a floating book before the light pours inside. My eyes, accustomed to blackness, explode with pain, and I am forced to turn away. Who are you, I ask, shaking hands covering my face. How have you come to this place? I am Grimoire Weiss. This is Nier. Long have we been searching for you. Now, come, stand. We shall awaken from this nightmare together. The one known as Nier extends his massive hand and pulls me from the cell. Though my eyes are slow to adjust to freedom, my ears are as keen as ever, and they recognize the staccato sounds of heavy rain. I never thought to hear the rain again, I whisper. Would that this were not such a terrible storm, said Grimoire Weiss. Look at your feet. I force my eyes open and see water pulling around my feet and lapping at my shins. There's so much of it. Yes, and more comes each moment we delay. If we do not make good our escape, we shall all drown in this castle. We know that you are weak, but you are our only hope to survive this place. Time, that long-forgotten friend, made itself known again. I nodded my head and swore to save my rescuers, no matter the cost. The castle catacombs are a maze, twisting upon themselves like the endless entrails of a giant. Which, by the way, the game is proceeding to have fun, and with its audio layers, if you haven't noticed. Which is one thing that this game does really interesting, is that it has all of its music is separated into separate audio layers, so it can do that. Anyway, I squint down the dim corridors and proceed north. At the end of the corridor, I find a row of 20 gorgeous canopied beds, resting atop a carpet of velvet. All are covered in a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. Searching for the door to the next room, I come across a shapeless mass of gray matter. It has been shoved against the side of the wall, and despite my fever, I think I see the outlines of a door just beyond. When I reach out a finger and touch the piece of the mass, it turns to dust and drifts away on the wind. Realization slowly dawns, and I fall to my knees and weep. Corpses. I face a mountain of charred and crumbling corpses. I look from it to the beds and back again until the horror dawns full upon me. Someone has piled these bodies into a tower and set them ablaze. Whether they were alive or dead, I do not know. Insanity will not permit me to consider the proposition further. I make a sound, whether scream or laughter, I cannot be certain. Then my mind grants me merciful blackness, and I find myself opening the door and leaving that most terrible of rooms. I squint down the dim corridors and don't know which way to go, so we're just going to take one. Squint down the door. Oh, so that doesn't really help. Okay, so north and south are kind of just, yeah, okay, we go east. What happens if we go west? Does that send us back? Okay, that makes sense. So I guess we're going to go north. Oh, good. Okay, so south obviously takes us back. Let's try east. At the end of the path, I find myself in a great hall with only the sounds of rain for comfort. The waterlogged red carpet squishes beneath my feet as I approach the center of the room. Once there, I behold a beautiful dining table upon which rests china and silver of the finest construction, as well as the remains of a fantastic feast. As my eyes continue to adjust, I see many chairs surrounding the table, each holding a dinner guest. Noticing movement, I approach the chair at the table's head. But as the truth of the matter dawns on me, I recoil in horror. The host of the feast is a corpse, as are all of the invited guests. An army of foul, wriggling insects have made homes in their remains, and this is the movement I saw. This once splendid feast was nothing more than a requiem. I take a moment to steady my shaking hands, then slowly back away from the table. Desperate to lose sight of the abomination before me, my gaze lands on the chairs upon which the dead were seated. This is a mistake, for the chairs prove to be even more terrible than the feast itself. Each one is covered in a layer of spikes that runs from the seat, up the back, and down the arms. This explains the color of the carpet beneath my feet. I can only pray that the unfortunate diners were dead when the meal began. For if not, it is a simple task to envision the agonized screams that must have sprung forth from their mouths. My mind grasps frantically at the possibility that these souls had committed some terrible crime for which this was their punishment. Though in truth, I suspect that they had committed no crime at all. There would be no tomorrow for these unfortunates. This was their last supper. I squint down the dim corridors and... where does west take us? The water has risen to my chin, and now laps greedily at my mouth and nose. You dumb... shouts Nier. He surely desires to say more, but the rest of his insult is cut short by the rising water. Grimoire Weiss, wet and tattered, floats on the water's surface. It is already too late for him. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. Oh, well, so that's what happens when you fail. You can apparently die in that. That's interesting. Okay, so we're back at the decision again. I think, did I proceed west? Okay, west takes us back to this four-way. East takes us back here, so I must have proceeded north before. Let's see. I'm getting a bit confused. I think south will take us back to the previous one before this, so let's try west. The end of the paths. A row of heavy wooden casks lie on their sides in a dark chamber. Doubtless they are filled with wine. My thirst roars to life. I cannot remember the last time my parched throat had relief. I scramble to the first cask and pull frantically at the cork. The theft of a few cups means nothing, I tell myself. The cask will be ruined by the flood regardless. Finally, the cork surrenders to my attack, and thick red liquid bursts forth from the hole. This is no wine. It is blood still warm from the body. Whether animal or something else I cannot say. The foul liquid soon mixes with the rising floodwaters, creating a warmth that laps against my thighs. By all the gods, are the rest of these casks filled with blood as well? I lack the courage to confirm my suspicion. Disgust quickly becomes fear as I turn to flee, but my weakened legs betray me, sending me toppling over into the red ocean below. The smell of death is everywhere. It threatens to consume me. I must escape. Crawling on all fours like an animal, Holding back screams lest any foulness enter my mouth, I lurch forward through the red waters and out of the room to freedom. I squint down the corridors and proceed east. Oh, yep, we're still dead. So I didn't get to see these game over endings, because the one I watched, they did all the right endings. Which I was contemplating on doing, but I'm glad I didn't. Even though this is going to take just a tiny bit longer for us to proceed. What happens if we go north? The end of the path, the water rises to my waist, exhausting me both physically and spiritually. I pray that this is the way out. Eventually, I can stand the side of the waters no longer, and so turn my eyes upward. Imagine my surprise when I see a series of paintings hanging on the faded plaster wall. Each depicts a person in the prime of life, clad in clothing of the highest quality. The styles, however, are strange to me, leading me to believe that these people had lived long, long ago. One subject wears an outfit that particularly catches my eye. It is constructed of a thin, breezy cloth, and decorated with a motif of flowers and birds. While encircling the figure's waist is a leather belt of the most perfect construction. It is a stunning costume, even by modern standards. As I gaze at the portrait, I am struck by a desire to touch it with my own hands. Yet, as I extend a single finger to the painting, I am gripped by a most unpleasant feeling. Staring closely at the image, I see it bend and warp into the shape of another finger. Something behind the picture is pointing at me. Is it another prisoner? A fellow inmate and trapped for eternity in this place? I cannot let it pass, and so I seize the portrait with both hands and throw it into the water. The wall is hollow behind the painting, and inside I can just make out a body. Whether this is a prisoner, whether or not this is a prisoner, there would be no rescue. This poor soul is long dead. Scraps of clothing lie on the floor around the bones. Only a small amount of the fabric has survived, but it features the same delicate designs that were depicted in the portrait. I've been admiring a row of corpses, blocked from view by portraits of each victim at their pinnacle. Enough! Shielding my eyes, I paddle forward through the water. Squint down the corridor and proceed south. Well, we're dead still. That's unfortunate. Alright, so what happens if we go north from here? This is after the room with the dining hall and the weird people that had wiggly bugs in them. Against all hope, we make it to the front door. Break it down, someone cries, and so I give myself to the effort. In tandem with Nier and Grimoire Vice, I slam my body against the thick, sturdy door. On the third try, it gives way, and we find ourselves sprawled out in front of the castle. The storm is in retreat. The clouds above are still dark and foreboding, but to the west I can see a thin shimmer of sunlight trying to break through. How can I thank you, I cry, as tears join the rain on my cheeks. I surely would have died in there. Looking down, I suddenly notice that my dress is in tatters, and sheepishly try to cover my exposed skin. Your dress, says Vice? Then you are a woman, madam? Yes, I am. I prefer the to a smile. I suppose that comes as something of a surprise, seeing as I exist only in the form of words. I can see that the one known as Nier is disappointed that the torn dress will be given no further description, but he hides it well. With a nod and a shrug, the three of us set forth to our awakening. But behind us, an awakening of another kind is taking place. Black smoke fills the abandoned castle, providing the countless souls inside with their final shroud. After a moment, the castle's windows shatter with a mighty roar. A fresh breeze blows through the hallways and corridors, clearing the smoke away for good. As we watch in awe, uncountable black shadows slowly flicker to life, crossing to and fro in front of the broken windows. The castle's dead have awakened to their new life, as shades. You have anything to say about that? Hopefully there will be no labyrinth next time. I hear you. Well, that was fun one. I didn't know there were failure conditions in there. I mean, I figured they'd just let you bumble around until you figured it out. I didn't know there was a failure condition. That's interesting. Anyway, on to the next guy. Hopefully that wasn't as tedious for you guys as it was for me. It wasn't tedious per se, but it's probably a good like 5 or 10 minutes I'm going to be cutting out of that. So hopefully it turns out a bit better for you guys. And another victim. This work is certainly trying. Yep, let's go. I'm surprised, Vice. You're a book. All this word stuff should be right up your alley. Yes, quite. Well, enough chatter, let's be off. A colony of massive sculptures was visible in the distance, their tall forms scraping against the sky. Vice and Nier had never seen such a sight, and their eyes widened as they tried to take it in. Hey, Vice. We keep walking, but those things don't get any closer. I don't get it. Are they really that big? As Vice considered his answer, the sun beat down on them with renewed ferocity. Perhaps they are some manner of mirage, he said. Under this heat, a mirage or two would hardly be an unexpected sight. Nier nodded and wiped the sweat off his brow, leaving a trail of sand in its place. He thought he'd never been so thirsty. The ancient road on which they walked was black and cracked with age. Here and there, thin wisps of grass pushed up through the rocky surface, as if defying those who had laid this material down over their home. The heat reflected from the road made Nier lightheaded. Suddenly, he dropped to his knees and slammed his hand against the black surface. Dang it, he said. Is this some kind of joke? Well, I'm not laughing. The complaining had already begun. Vice tried not to let his eyes roll too much. A joke, he said? No joke. This road leads to the city of art. Perhaps the path itself is simply some manner of grand artistic work. Oh, come on. That's crap and you know it. Possibly, but think of it this way might make it easier for you to bear. Nier glanced at Vice's grinning face, cursed silently to himself, and resumed walking. As time passed, Nier's feet grew more painful, and his throat drier than he thought possible. He tried not to look further than the next step ahead, because the bright sunlight made him hesitant to trust his own senses. We are definitely getting closer, said Vice in an effort to cheer his companion. Yes, this much is certain. Encouraged, Nier lifted his gaze. Suddenly, he stopped walking, choosing instead to stand in the middle of the road with his mouth and eyes wide open, and his finger pointing in the distance. Water, he cried. It's water! Water? Asked Vice. Preposterous. I don't see any water. It's right there, idiot. Can't you see it? Look, the sun is reflecting off of it. Without waiting for a response, Nier sprang to life and bounded towards the site. What in the... There was no water. There was nothing but sand in every direction. Nier closed his eyes and sighed as Vice floated up behind him, chuckling softly. I believe this is known as a mirage, he said. Many a desert traveler has spoken of such things. Nier shook his head, bewildered. Suddenly, he pointed off in the distance, his eyes wide once more. Wait, there it is! I just missed it. Look, it's right there! Nier sprinted off again, leaving Vice with no choice but to follow. After a few minutes of running, Nier came to a halt. I could have sworn it was right around here. Confused, he put his hands up to his eyes and rubbed them vigorously. As soon as he stopped, he noticed a blue shimmering pool of clear water just over the next rise. With a shout, he bounded off in search of it. The chase continued for nearly an hour, until an exasperated Vice finally floated up to Nier and struck him in the face with his cover. You blithering idiot! Stop this at once! There is no water here! Nier's face clouded. There isn't? There is not, and perhaps next time you will listen to me when I tell you as much. Vice paused for a moment, then continued speaking in a slightly kinder tone. However, I suppose this mad chase was not altogether wasted. It seems we have arrived in the city of art. Nier looked up. Stretched out before him was a row of impossibly tall sculptures. Their journey was at an end. They're huge, cried Nier, completely forgetting the heat and the pain of the past few hours. I've never seen anything so big. Each sculpture was formed from roughly the same shape, a tall rectangle that stretched up towards the sky, but that is where the similarities ended. Most were covered with panes of glass that reflected the light in 1,000 directions, while others seemed to be nothing but frames of steel. Some had tall spires on their tops, while others possessed triangular caps. "What kind of city is this?" said Nier. "Where are the people? Where are the houses? Perhaps the land is intended exclusively for artistic use." The debate continued as they made their way through the city. Miracles of artistry were everywhere. Great iron crates with wheels sat silent on steel rails. Beautifully carved works with lights of red, amber, and green dangled over every street. As they moved away from the massive sculptures, they found a great array of smaller ones. Some were covered in glass or brick, but many were composed of materials they had never before encountered. The sheer variety of colors and styles was staggering. Unable to find a theme or purpose to the abstract works around them, Nier and Weiss eventually fell silent. On the outskirts of the city, they discovered 3 sculptures in the shape of humans. Nier uttered a sigh of relief as he approached them. "Finally, I was getting tired of modern art." The 3 statues were indistinguishable except for a single word chiseled onto their right arms. One read Alpha, one read Beta, and the final one read Gamma. As Nier moved to touch the nearest statue, a bird flew from the top of one of the sculptures. Alighting on the statue's shoulder, it emitted a brief, beautiful song that took the form of words. "Only one form is real. The others are false. The real form will always speak the truth. The false ones will speak only lies." With that, the bird departed. As if on cue, the 3 statues shuddered to life, acquiring color and form as they began to breathe. "Hey, look at that," said Nier. "They're alive." The triplets bowed low before Nier. "Please," said Alpha. "You have to get me out of this nightmare. I am real." "Stop lying," said Beta. He turned to Nier and threw his hands in the air. "Alpha's a fake, you know. I'm the real one." "What a load of crap," said Gamma. "Beta is a fake. Everyone knows I'm the only real one around here." Their respective pleas given, the 3 statues returned to their frozen state as silence once again enveloped the city. "When you consider all of the statements, only one could be the real thing," said Weiss. Nier furrowed his eyebrows and considered his answer. "Only one form is real. The others are false. The real form will always speak the truth. The false one will only speak lies." So, there's actually this one. If you had a piece of paper to write it down, it would make a lot of sense. Trying to do this all in your head is confusing. I'm a little bit interested because, like I said before, the one I saw had only the correct one. So, what happens if we do the wrong one? The real one's Gamma. The eyes of the statue shone with an eerie light. The light grew stronger and stronger, until Nier and Weiss were forced to turn away. Well, that was a mistake. Yeah, we best act more carefully. This is the worst job ever. So that's just you just get booted out. Okay. Well, let's get back to that. Really do like this version of the song that's moving a bit faster. It's actually pretty exciting. Anyway, if I'm not incredibly intelligent, so I didn't get this right away when I was watching it, but they explained it shortly afterwards. So even if you don't get it, you should in just a moment. The real one is Beta. Though Nier's voice betrayed a notable lack of confidence, he was relieved to see Weiss nodding at him. "If Alpha were telling the truth," began Weiss in the dry tones of a lecturer, "Beta and Gamma would be fakes. But in that case, Gamma's claim that Beta is a fake would be the truth, even though Gamma is a liar. Therefore, that theory crumbles. Now, let us presume that Gamma spoke the truth. That makes Alpha and Beta liars. In this situation, however, Beta is calling Alpha a liar, which would leave us with 2 statues telling the truth. Finally, let's assume that Beta is telling the truth. If so, Alpha and Gamma's lies would make sense. Therefore, Beta must be real." And that's actually a pretty smart way to figure that one out. As Weiss finished his explanation, Alpha and Gamma crumbled soundlessly into the dust, while Beta sprang to life once more. "Congratulations, villager," said Weiss in a cheerful voice. The time to awaken has arrived. Thank you for saving me, cried the villager. He dropped to his knees and bowed his head as low as it could go, before an uncomfortable Nier pulled him to his feet. Why did you have a dream like this? Said Vice. Have you been to the city before? The villager slowly looked around at the bizarre objects and sculptures that dotted the landscape, then shook his head. I don't think so. I mean, it's impossible, right? There's no way I could have ever been to a place like this, but at the same time, I feel like I've seen it before. Deja vu, muttered Nier. It's just like that mare. The vague sense of unease that struck Nier during the mare's dream spread once more through his mind. Okay, that was terrible. I am positive I've seen that place before. Stop. I get enough foreboding crap from everyone else in my life. Don't you start too. Okay. There. Now all the villagers can wake up, right? All 2 of them. Yes. If the mayor's assumption was correct. I think I've had enough wordplay to last a lifetime, thank you very much. Yeah, I hear you. Well, let's go see the mayor. So the first one... Well, I'm a little bit stumped. I've got a few ideas, but nothing really clear. And even if my ideas were true, it's stuff related to later in the game, so I can't really talk about it much. But this guy's ideas over here, this guy's dream, seems to suggest that that they were walking along a desert road of some sort. As evidenced by the fact they said they were on a hard black road, I think. And then they later go on to say that they see these sculptures that are really tall, made out of steel and glass. And that sounds to me like skyscrapers. Or at least buildings of some sort. And then as they move on, they talk about how there's less of the really tall ones. And then there's these ones made out of glass and brick. And that seems to suggest maybe they're moving out of the main of the city and going into the suburbs? I don't know. There's probably 1,000 different ways to look at that and interpret it, but that's my interpretation. I don't know what that means in terms of the story, but I was able to grasp that from there. Which, if anyone else has any good ideas who hasn't seen the game, before, at least not all the endings, let me know. I would love to see if anyone else has any other ideas to contrast to that.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very so much. I don't know where I got very from. Here, I have something for you. Obtained one-handed sword, Faith. Holy crap. I can really have this? Of course. It's apparently a weapon of some renown, but we have little use for it. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you again for everything. Just grab all these random weapons, stuff them in my back pocket. So, let's take a look at... Actually, I guess we can do it like this. Faith. It's very light, but its stats are worse, like we imagined. By the way, very light means obviously that we can swing it fast, so its only real benefit is that it would be faster than the other one, and we could do some attacks and get out of the way. Whereas the Beastbane has the unfortunate problem of being heavy, so its attacks are a little bit slower. At the end of the day, not a big deal, but, you know, maybe it makes a difference. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, having more attack power helps tremendously, because I think it's a lot more attack power. As a final note, let's, since we're already in side quest episode here, let's take a look at Faith's backstory. So, what did we learn here in Grimoire Vice? Well, we learned that a sword carried by the world's most loyal servant, like loyalty, the sword's blade is straight and true. Sounds, not terrible, right? The sword we got here doesn't sound too bad. There's 2 stories. So, one is from Dragon Dragoon, aka Drakengard, which is the game that this is technically a this game is technically a sequel to one of its endings. And I'll also give you Nier's backstory version. I want to give you both because they're slightly different. I think Nier's is a little bit creepier, but the first one's interesting as well. So let's do that. So, according to Dragon Dragoon, in a faraway eastern land, there was a poet who made a living reciting songs. but he keenly felt the limits of his own skills and so made a pact with the ghost. With the power of the ghost inside him, he began to compose glorious and beautiful songs. His fame spread throughout the city, and before long, he was named the official poet of the imperial court. But one day, the ghost returned to him and she said thus, "Your life as a genius poet is over. You shall henceforth never sing a song again." It was as the ghost said. The poet felt silent, and no more songs came from his lips. His dream gone, he plunged the sword into his breast. It still gleams with the glistening of his blood. A little bit sinister, but a little bit straightforward, I would say. Here comes Nier's, interesting version. There was a famous singer living in a city in the Far East. However, he was no longer able to sing in his later years. A monk appeared by his side out of nowhere and whispered to the singer, "You should pick up this sword. If you kill a single person, you'll be able to sing one song. If you kill 2 people, you will sing 2 songs. Go ahead and sing some unparalleled songs." The singer picked up the song from the monk, hid in the night, and slashed the 2 bystanders. The next day, the singer can produce beautiful songs and regained fame and fortune. Afterwards, the singer sang a song for each person he killed, and sang 2 for every 2 he killed. He continually attained more fame and fortune. However, his desires could no longer be suppressed. If he killed his most important person, what kind of marvelous song would be produced? And so the singer killed his wife and sang a song. He killed several of his children and sang multiple songs. He killed everyone in his family, and he sang and sang and sang. He killed so many people on the streets that he cannot sing even fast enough. He killed and killed and killed and killed. In the end, he didn't sing anything as he killed himself. All that is left is a blood-stained sword. Both of them seem to end with the person killing themselves with the sword, and having to do with singing. That's kind of interesting. And by the way, I will explain more of the crosses between Drakengard 3. If you ever hear me say Dragon Dragoon, that's the Japanese name of Drakengard. I'll explain more of the crosses between Drakengard. Did I say 3? I meant the first one. And this game later. In fact, like, it's technically a prequel to one of the endings of the game. And unless you plan on playing that game, which from what I've heard is it is a horrible game, I'll make a video one day with a lovely little spoiler tag and everything, and we will look at flat grass. We will explain how they are related and what led to this game. But that'll all have to come, I think, after maybe the second ending of the game. So it'll be a little bit as of yet. Anyway, I think this has gone on long enough. Sorry to have gone on a bit here, but I hope this was interesting enough to everyone. I do think it was, honestly, myself. This was a fun thing to be doing today, and I hope you all enjoyed it as well. It comes back later, but we get to do more different things with it. The text-based adventure thing, especially I think in the second playthrough of the game, we actually even get a whole new text adventure, I think. Maybe. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll come back next time, and we'll get to meet up a new friend. You guys like friends, right? And friends in Nier have nothing bad going for them. Thanks for watching. Bye.